We have a lot to talk about this morning. We have two very special guests in the studio this morning. Josh Anderson, he is a Lexington Legends Hall of Famer, former pro baseball player with the Houston Astros, the Atlanta Braves, the Detroit Tigers, the Kansas City Royals, and he's currently an instructor with the Josh Anderson Baseball and Softball Academy. Good morning.
Good morning. Great to be here this morning.
We also have Mike Tarter in the studio this morning. He's the president and CEO of Fork Broadcasting. He's also a Hall of Famer, Kentucky Broadcasters Association. He's our resident sports expert. So good morning, Mike.
That's why Josh is here, yes.
We are going to talk about this morning some of the greatest sports upsets in history, according to ESPN. So we'll get Josh and Mike to weigh in on whether or not they agree. Talk us through some of those great sports upsets. And this whole show this morning, Josh and Mike, was prompted by this. Now, you all may remember that was a recent maybe upset in sports history. November 30th, the Iron Bowl. Auburn beat the University of Alabama with that pass. Did you all, Josh and Mike, get to watch that, or have you watched clips of it?
I've seen clips. I didn't see it live.
I did not see it live.
What do you think about that? That was, I think, whether or not you're a sports expert or not, that was a pretty big deal.
Mike, I'll let you go on that.
Yeah. Well, there's no question. I mean, that's those two teams, huge rivals. They hate each other. In the Iron Bowl, of course, there's a big tradition there, and then that happens. And Auburn, of course, as you know, Josh, you saw the other play too a couple of weeks ago against Georgia. Came up with a late play, crazy touchdown. So right now things are going their way, but that topped it all. Yeah, I would have to say that's one of the upsets because they're thinking Alabama's going to go for Josh, a third straight national championship. So it was a big upset.
Personal opinion, I think it's good for football. I know the Alabama Auburn fans are rowdy, but to say the least. But yeah. I think it's good for football. I think it's good to have a little mix up. I mean, Alabama, my hat's off to them for the job they've done over the last several years. But I think it's good for any sport to have somebody different. If Alabama don't make it, I think it's still good for football. Good games like that everybody gets into it, talks about it. It's good for the game.
What do you think Auburn's chances are making it to the Super Bowl?
Well, it's the national championship game. With the way they're going to do this now, Auburn's probably going to they got a big ball game Saturday against Missouri in the SEC championship game. If they win that, then I don't know how that'll go, Josh. How the voters and the writers will make that happen, because then you've got a lot of jockeying back and forth. A lot of folks think that they're going to be down because they've had two, huge games. This Alabama thing was just the biggest of the big for them in particular, and they may have a letdown. And this Missouri football team is pretty good that's coming in, so maybe it's set for another upset.
Josh, you've spent a lot of time in the world of sports, and later in the show we'll talk about you starting here in Pulaski County playing baseball and maybe some local upsets that you've seen over the years. Yeah. But according to ESPN, they have done a top 10 list of some of the biggest sports upsets in history. So we will do 10 through 5, and then we'll let you all comment on the top 5 sports upsets in history. According to ESPN, the number 10 sports upset was when North Carolina State knocked off Houston to win the 1983 NCAA championship. Number 9, Rulian Gardner overpowers Alexandra Carolyn for the Greco-Roman wrestling gold in 2000. A little Greco-Roman there.
I'll pass.
Number 8, the New York Mets defeated the Baltimore Orioles in the 1969 World Series. Number 7, Jack Fleck beats Ben Hogan in the 1955 U.S. Open. Number 6, the Denver Nuggets eliminate the Seattle Supersonics in the 1994 NBA playoffs. And that brings us to the top 5. First one, right here in Kentucky, Man of War, a little horse racing. He was one of our greatest thoroughbreds. He was on a 6-race winning streak when he was at Stanford Stakes at Sarasota on August 12, 1919. He lost this race to a horse. His name, Upset. That was his name. This was the only race he ever lost. So that was number 5. Number 4, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson for the heavyweight championship in 1990. Any comments on that?
I do remember that was huge. That was big then. Tyson was, he was, heavyweight champ. He was the guy, and that was big.
I watched that live. It was madness.
It happened in Tokyo, Japan.
Of course, with Tyson involved, it would have to be madness, wouldn't it?
And I think that somewhat started the downward spiral of Mike Tyson in 1990 when that happened. Number 3, Villanova tops Georgetown to win the 1985 NCAA championship. Mike?
Remember that well. Sure do. They did it at Rupp Arena.
Was that Rupp?
Yep, it was at Rupp. Raleigh Massimino coached that team. And,
yes, he did.
Yeah.
That clip showed all the time, by the way.
Exactly.
On ESPN.
But they won it at Rupp Arena.
The Wildcats, the Villanova Wildcats, they didn't even finish in the top 20 in the NCAA basketball poll in 1985. They finished third in the Big East, but during the 1985 NCAA tournament, they knocked off Daytona, Michigan, Maryland, North Carolina, where they reached the Final Four, knocked off Memphis State, and then beat Georgetown. And you know who was playing for Georgetown during that time?
Patrick Ewing.
Patrick
Yeah,
Ewing.
Patrick Ewing.
Patrick
Yes,
Ewing was on the
sure
Georgetown team at that
Wow.
time. Number two, the New York Jets defeat the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl number 3 in 1969.
Joe Willie Namath.
Joe Namath was on the Jets team, and this was the first Super Bowl to officially be called the Super Bowl. Super Bowl number 3, called the Super Bowl, was played at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, and it was it's considered by a lot of people as the greatest upset in sports history. Joe Namath was on the team, and the Jets was led by Coach Weeb Eubank. Weeb Eubank led the team, and these are some of the commentators after the Jets won the game. Weeb Eubank, he was coaching the New York Jets at that time. Do you remember that?
I didn't watch that game. No.
You did not
I go
watch
back
the
that
game.
far,
No,
but I don't.
No,
I remember
that's not what I
kind of,
meant.
but
Not what I meant. Do you remember reading about that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Understand the significance?
Because Joe Namath predicted it before the game that they were going to win, and nobody gave them a shot. Nobody gave them a shot. You know, the Colts were it. They were the team. That was it. Nobody's going to beat the Colts. And here's Namath, young, brash. Hey, we're going to win this thing, and everybody just thought that's just he's out of his mind. Well, he wasn't. They went out and won it.
And according to ESPN, the number one sports upset in sports history was when the United States beat the Soviet Olympic ice hockey team in 1980. You're all shaking your heads.
You remember that? Yeah.
There were many new hockey fans made during that period, weren't there?
Yeah.
And that was an Olympic win and the first gold medal ever for the U.S. hockey team.
It's fitting. I think that's a good spot for that.
Josh, let's talk a little baseball, because you've been in baseball for a long time. What are some of the greatest upsets you've seen in baseball?
Greatest upsets in baseball.
That you've been a part of or know about your team?
That's tough. I've played so much baseball. It's hard to. College, I don't even remember. It went by so fast. High school, I don't know if we upset anybody. We were so good that I don't know that we.
You had some pretty good baseball teams, but you had some great games locally. Between Pulaski, Southwestern.
That's true.
And what years were you at high school here
In high
playing
school,
baseball?
I graduated 2000 from high school, so I played from 97 all the way up to 2000. Played on the JV varsity team as an 8th grader, freshman, and then went on up. I don't really. There's not a whole lot of upsets. I remember getting upset a lot in my career, and that's the thing. I remember we in college we were going to win the OVC tournament when I was a junior. Before I left and got drafted, we were against Murray State, and they had to beat us 2 times to win it. And so it was a double elimination pool. We got beat twice. I mean, they hit everything they touched, everything they hit, found some grass, and they ended up upsetting us 2 games in a row there and beat us for the OVC championship. So that was disheartening. Other than that, it's hard to remember all the. I don't know that we got upset. I got upset a lot, but we never upset a lot of people on the teams I was on. So.
Mike, as someone who writes a sports blog, who knows a lot about sports, what constitutes an upset for you? Or what do you think a team, as a team, what constitutes an upset
those
for them?
clubs and a lot of times the media, national media, will just reap a lot of praise on a particular football team or baseball, whatever it is, particular team, and nobody, they're going to be unbeatable. And Alabama, I think, kind of falls in that way. Everybody thought Alabama's going to run the table. They're going to win a 3rd in a row, unprecedented. That's just going to happen. And I don't think there were very many people that picked, other than Auburn fans, that would happen. So I think it's that type of thing where you get a team that nobody's talking about, nobody's looking at, nobody's thinking that they can do this thing, and then you're all of a sudden looking at an upset, and somebody actually has one. And Josh, we can sit here and talk locally. Yeah. You got a football team in Pulaski County right now that's going to face Bowling Green. That team's won 43 football games in a row.
That's right.
Nobody's, if you look at statewide, they're all taking Bowling Green. I would not count out the Pulaski County Maroons.
They've had a great season.
They've had a tremendous 14-0, and they're not being talked about statewide. But Josh, that's a pretty good football team.
It is a very good football team, and they're a young team, but they're very mature for their what they got. I mean, they've got guys that are, a lot of freshmen and sophomores on the field, but they've been in some tough situations where most young athletes would buckle under pressure, or you just see a lot of, especially in basketball, you get an 8th grader out there, a freshman. Sometimes it's a little tough in tough situations in big games, but Pulaski's they've played very mature this year for a young team. And I got to be honest with you guys, I love upsets. Yeah. I love them. I think
when the underdog wins.
The underdog, I pull for the underdog in the World Series and the Major League playoffs. I pull for the underdog in the NBA Finals, or, when they make it. Sometimes it's two great teams playing against each other. But I just think it's the beauty of sports, and I've always loved the underdog.
We're talking about sports this morning and some of the greatest upsets in sports history. We're talking with Josh Anderson and Mike Tarter. Welcome back to Mid-Mornings with Amy on Thursday, December 5th, a very warm 63 degrees outside. We're talking sports this morning on Mid-Mornings with Amy with Josh Anderson. He's a former professional baseball player, and Mike Tarter, sports blogger and president and CEO of Fork Broadcasting. We have a question for you this morning, a trivia question, and what we are going to give away. Mike, can you tell everybody what we have to give away?
Drum roll, please. It is an official Alabama leather wallet.
Genuine leather Alabama.
Alabama with the big Alabama A on the front of it.
Wallet, all in a nice tin case, so you can keep it for yourself or give it away as a Christmas present. But for all you Alabama fans, this might ease your pain just a little bit if you win this. If you win this morning. The first person to call our studio with the correct answer to the question wins the Alabama wallet. The number here to the studio is 679-9959, 679-9959. And the question is, Josh, are we ready?
I'm ready.
The question is, in the 1990 World Series, what team, coming in as the underdog, swept their opponent to win the series in 4 games? People may have to look this one up, but if there's any huge baseball fans out there, I'm sure they will know this. In the 1990 World Series, what team, coming in as the underdog, swept their opponent to win the series in 4 games? Mike, you're a baseball fan. Talk about some upsets you've seen in baseball over the years while we're waiting for someone. Actually, we might not be waiting very long. I think somebody may know the answer
talking about
to our question.
Good morning. You're on Mid-Mornings with Amy.
Hello?
Hello. Good morning. You're on Mid-Mornings with Amy.
Sure. Hi, is it, let me get this fix my phone.
I think she might know the answer, but she might have the radio on in her car, so if she can turn the radio down and talk to us, that might help.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Is it Oakland Days?
No, not Oakland. Good guess, but not the right answer. She was a good guess, but not the right answer. The question in the 1990 World Series, what team, coming in as the underdog, swept their opponent to win the series in 4 games?
Good morning. You're on Mid-Mornings with Amy.
Is it the Minnesota Vikings?
No, not the Minnesota Vikings.
What about the Metropolis Clippers?
Oh, it's John Alexander.
This is apparently someone who knows very little about the baseball world.
Cut him off now.
Where do we find these people? How do we know them? The question is, in the 1990 World Series, what team, coming in as the underdog, swept their opponent to win the series in 4 games? Winning the series in 4 games.
Good morning. You're on Mid-Mornings with Amy.
Hang on, is it the Anaheim Angels?
Say that one more time.
The Anaheim Angels?
No, not the Angels.
Oh, okay.
Good guess, but not the Angels. People are having a hard time with this
They
one.
play in the National League, and there are a lot of fans of them around here.
There's a lot of fans of them. And good morning. You're on Mid-Mornings with Amy.
Yes, Cincinnati Reds.
Ding, ding. That's it.
Good job. The Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds. Are you a Cincinnati Reds fan?
Yes.
Good. Well, what's your name? Can you tell us your name?
Jeff Lipperl.
Well, Jeff, congratulations. You've just won yourself a nice genuine leather Alabama Crimson Tide wallet. Do you know where we are here at Somerset 106? You can pick up your wallet.
Yes, I know where it is.
Okay, well, you can come by and pick this up in the next 30 days, Monday through Friday before 5. Congratulations, Jeff.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Jeff knew the answer.
That's
Took
great.
people a little while, but talk about this game very quickly, Mike.
Yeah, that World Series, the Reds had a great year in the National League. They went from, all the way, led the league from opening day all the way on. But Oakland, they had the Bash brothers, Canseco, they had McGuire, they had Dave Stewart on the hill, Dennis Eckersley. Nobody thought they would beat the powerful Oakland A's. Somebody got that answer because everybody thought they were going to win it. They didn't. The Reds took them in 4. It was a great World Series for the Reds.
Yeah. The first caller had it, actually.
Yeah, they were in the pardon the pun, they were in the ballpark.
They were in the
Oakland
ballpark.
A's, yeah.
I think
Literally.
most people think because the Reds swept them that the Reds were the ones to beat the A's, but the Reds were the underdogs in that series, and it was an awesome series. Great pitching. I mean, you had Jose Rio for the Reds, and you had Dave Stewart for the Oakland Athletics. Dennis Eckersley, one of the greatest closers, if not the greatest closer of all time. The Bash brothers, Eric Davis, Barry Larkin. It was just it was a series full of great players, but Oakland stacked up was by far the best team coming out of the West.
We're talking sports upsets this morning on Mid Mornings with Amy, and if we haven't talked about an upset that you might remember or know about, share it with us on Facebook. You can search Somerset 106.